Hello. This video, I will be talking about Superman power and strength. As you see in this picture, um, this picture is he's holding an airplane, and in this picture, he is holding and lifting an island that is filled with kryptonite. So his power and strength is jeopardized. So I'm going to explain to you two different way of Superman's power and how it relates to humans. Now, humans are always striving to be strong. Most often, you see them in bodybuilding, powerlifters, uh, athletes of various kinds. But to show the power, humans usually refer it to power lifters and bodybuilding, any kind of activity that consists of human species showing its power. Now, problem with although every athlete, every individual who strive to be stronger are accredited for their uh, achievements to individual uh, development in power and strength. But when it comes to ultimate alpha male, he has to go beyond common way of human power development. Now, him holding this airplane is showing his power. While humans may not understand to what degree and what gives him credence that he could lift such tons of weight effortlessly, while humans, they have a hard time bench pressing. Like, you could bench, there are people who bench press like over 500 pounds. You rarely see them bench press 1,000 pounds, or they lift 1,000 pounds. Anyway, the human level of achievements in lifting power and showing strength, it varies. Unfortunately, the difference between superhuman and a human way of obtaining power is that humans depend on a lot of resources, like food, especially supplements and other things. They depend on these edibles and also other things like drug influences and all that to allow them to perform in that level. And while they may be accredited for their whatever degree of great achievements in power and strength, but when it comes to superhuman, going beyond human, and then you have to go do without those elements. I mean, you do have to eat because you're human, but you'll never rely on supplements or influence of steroids or mass amount of supplements. So these are human way of achieving power. When you're talking about superhuman, the ultimate alpha, he has to do it without them. I mean, there are brief moments through his life, like in like high school time, he will touch on steroid use just for a month because his dealer ripped him off on the second try. Uh, but it was only for a month. Even things of gangster lifestyle of selling narcotic, he has been involved in it, but because of getting robbed or dealer ripping him off, he just lets go and just forget about. But he has been introduced to it. He never liked doing it, but he will touch it. But it's only for a month. Nevertheless, as humans accredit themselves to achieving great power and strength, unfortunately, because they rely on resources of food, family, or resource, it's just simply having a reliable job. They have a job and they supply their indulgence with all kinds of weightlifting supplements. Unfortunately, when you are an alpha male, the ultimate alpha male representative of Superman, having you, those things cannot be involved because while he is going through life struggles of addiction, various, you're talking about decades of addiction, that his body has succumbed to chemical substance like crack addiction, heroin, even LSD, the chemical. Now, marijuana is not considered a drug of great destroyer of the body because, in fact, he within his early years he will use marijuana as a tool to push his body beyond humans without food. But within the use of marijuana, he could outperform in endurance, not in power. He never would, because he don't rely on supplements and steroids and all these. He never achieves great poundage of benches or deadlifts or even 20-inch biceps because he doesn't eat. He only the way he trains his body has to be very precise. Like he never sweats when he trains. He only trains for like 30-40 minutes maximum with the sometimes influence of weed, marijuana, sometimes he can't afford it. But when he trains, he never sweats because he doesn't eat when he trains. He never showers because he can't go. He within his internal instruction, he knows that he has a long journey in which the end is not near. It's unknown and it's like chasing a ghost. Nevertheless, as he performs these humanistic strengthening exercise to building his body, he never eats when he trains. He never prepares meals when he trains. He never takes any kind of supplement because he doesn't have the funds. He is through his addiction. He spends all his money on drugs, crack cocaine to marijuana to whatever. So through his lack of credentials in finding a good job and all that because he's a criminal, so his exercising method must be very precise and to the point and to move on. He doesn't dwell on the muscle. He just goes in there 30 minutes, 40 minutes and pushes as hard as he can, especially things of pull downs, bench pressing on the machine. While he's high, he would rarely work out on free weights. He would only rely on shoulder presses, machines. But no matter what, within his very low weight to lack of food and lack of muscle bulge, he will always try to push the maximum weight, no matter what, to the point where when he often pulls down a weight, the weight is so heavy, it literally lifts his body, but he doesn't care. He just goes in there and just does his thing and then leaves. And he never showers because he doesn't sweat. After 30 minutes, when he starts begin to perspire, that's when he stops. He may do another set or two, but that's when he starts perspiring, that's when he stops training because he does not want to be going in the showers because he's got to go to do 12-hour work days. Nevertheless, the method that he trains, he has to do it very meticulously. Lack of food, lack of residence, lack of security, lack of supplements for decades. You're talking about, like, not only that, he has to, through his addiction, over 20 years addiction, he has to continue, he continually pushes his body. Now, I'm not talking about doing hours. He may, through his addiction, his body is like weak, lack of food. So he may only do it for like 15, 20 minutes or something. As he progresses through the decades, may only do it for 10 minutes. Once a week, twice, three times a month. It's not progressive. So he's not veiny. In fact, while young time, he may have abs and all that, but after decades, after a drug addiction, going in and out of jail, and lack of money and everything, in lack of addiction. That is the main thing. While humans may maintain their physical attributes in strength to physique to power, if they do not do addiction, womanizing to narcotics to whatever, if they stay regiment in their pursuing of things, maybe a single woman, no drinking, no alcohol, and all that, yeah, he could. But the point of to show the Superman's power, he has to induce the addiction. He has to give in to addiction. If he's working out and suddenly he's sexually aroused and he needs to get a woman, right after workout, he'll go get her. He doesn't shower, he doesn't do anything because he doesn't sweat. So he right after, and this happens on and off. Well, most times he may not have the financial resources, especially through his drug addiction for 10 years. But for 15 years, he somehow obtains an occupation that is illegal, done illegally, but he obtains a job that allows him to accumulate a certain massive amount of money monthly that doctors, lawyers would get paid by hourly, like $50 an hour. That's for a long time. Through crack addiction, he didn't have the money. He just spent all his monthly pay on weed to help him push his body through exercising. So, but after a decade, he began to, drug addiction is kind of over, but never ending. But he has not, through the suppression of his sexual urges, through the drug addiction, he never had sex and stuff. So you're talking about like over 10 years, he never been in sexual experiences because he's just too busy. His mind is blown away by crack and he's lost. He's only caring about finding the next feed of addiction. So he has to hunt various different shopping malls, different towns and all that to steal various things and whatever to fill his drug addiction. But he doesn't have enough money to do drugs and sex addiction. And so he goes through like 10 years of drug addiction and 15 years and over of, unfortunately to say, sex addiction that it may not be good, but within alpha male's ultimate curse and need, he has to give into it. While humans are always fighting not to give in, his job, his mission to progress in continuously break through the barrier of human condition, he has to feed the beast. He has to feed the addiction. And while the drug addiction may have been limited, but his, unfortunately, man's female gender addiction, I mean, he has to go beyond. I mean, you hear about porno stars having so many encounters of sexual partners and all that, and and few of them last longer than a decade, but very rarely. Usually, in few years, they'll be succumbing to drug addiction. Eventually, they would die out. But his body recuperates so fast that he is never endingly has sexual urges, and the pain of it is finding the money to feed it. That's the pain of it. Besides the physical torment of the body, he has to feed the body continuously. I mean, you're talking about over 15 years of this. I mean, through his very aggressiveness of fulfilling his internal addiction, he went into like comatose stage where he would 5 years he would go at it hard and hard and hard, and then he would just fall. He would collapse. Like for 6 months he would just lay in bed. He would not eat or anything. He would just stay in comatose because he's lost. And then after 6 months, he would get back up again. He never started because his internal instruction is yet to be fulfilled. Another 5 years, he will go at it hard again. Go back to that job of occupational, and however he can, and get that money and then feed his addiction again. Another five years later, he crashed again. His body crashes again. He's in a comatose. He can't get up. He don't wake up. He don't shower. He don't brush his teeth. He don't do nothing. He just lays in bed. And then he gets back up again somehow. And then he starts, his body goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. You're talking about like within 25 years. I mean, the drug addiction, that up and down was easy compared to the sex addiction. The power, the amount of energy he produces in gratifying his urges, and the amount of time and energy in which it takes to get the money and fulfill it. Those things are really easy part. The hard part is the body is continuously getting, the stomach is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, but he doesn't care. But he continuously pushes his body, not every day, maybe twice a week or once every so often, in a month, maybe a couple of times. As he gets years, like 15, 16 years later, his stomach is getting bigger, but he still pushes his body, like dips, chin-ups, basic exercise movement for 10, 15 minutes. That's all he does. While his stomach is getting huge, but his body, upper strength, he just feels he has this inferiority complex. Like he always want to be bigger and stronger. But he would never invest time into ab exercises, running. Well, his whole life is about endurance. He would travel 10 kilometers just on a 500 calorie. That's his life from the very earliest of young childhood to high school to whatever. His body is conditioned. He would walk. I mean, you're talking about 10 kilometers just for 500 calories. His body is built on that. And so when he exercises, he knows his limited calories. He has to go in there and only go in there for 30 to 40 minutes and do the power moves, not free weights machines, because he's using marijuana a lot of times, so he can't be doing free weights, and he's not strong. But what he does is he keeps pushing his body. It keeps condensing and condensing again. And as for 25 years, he's up and down, up and down, up and down. He's what he's doing is his body is going tight, loose, tight, loose, tight, loose. It's condensing it, more condensing it like that through his life for 30 years. So in his older age, he would, while the young generations want to have 20-inch arms. But he would like to have such a great physique as bodybuilders, but he never has the resources, and he's too ignorant. He doesn't know that you have to eat to get big. All he knows is he just keeps pushing his body. No matter how fat he gets, no matter how overweighted he gets, no matter how there is no reason to keep pushing his, no matter what, whether he's in jail, prison, drug addiction, sex addiction, no matter what. For 30 years, he will just keep pushing. But thing about his exercise is that he never sweats, and he never does it continuously every day. He only does it like 3 times a week. As years progress, decades progress, he only does it maybe couple of times a month because he's just getting fat. He's lazy now. But thing about it is, he, through his method of training, he has saved a lot of money, time, and his body is able to produce fast recuperation, where once he's hit that crack cocaine, next day his body would just recuperate and start over again. No matter if it's a drug addiction, sex addiction, or whatever. But with the humans, with their constant eating of this and taking these supplements, besides the financial burden of it, if they ever smoked the substance, did heroin, crack cocaine, it would just literally destroy them. Because as they lose massive amount of weight, as they go into this chemical substance, and then try to get back up into where they were, besides the financial burden, they just could not last. They may fall once or twice and climb back up, but they could not do it for like hundreds and thousands, literally hundreds and thousands times, up and down, up and down, up and down, lose it all, have it all, lose it all, have it all, lose it all. For 30 years, the body is made. So as Superman is holding that airplane, to what depth will you still maintain your physical strength? You have no family, you have no resources, you don't have a job, you don't have the food, you don't have gym weights, you don't have any kind of future prospect of anything, because you're a criminal. Your whole life is about criminal and in and out of jail and addiction, and you have no prospects. But you continue to push. He continued to push his body. So it's not about him. He doesn't have 20-inch arms, and he doesn't have veiny muscle popping out. No, but internally, in atomic structure-wise, he is stronger. He doesn't need food to get him up. He doesn't need creatine. He doesn't need supplements. He doesn't need vitamins. He doesn't need gym. He doesn't need resources of people and friends to give him motivation to keep pushing his body further. No matter what kind of addiction, no matter what kind of mileage he traveled without food, no matter how much burden and pressure there is in fulfilling his addiction, no matter what, he will push his body. And that is the power of superior being. It may be great to have 20-inch arm, bench press 500 pounds, deadlift 1,000 pounds, but without the food, without the resources, without the motivation of like YouTube and social media, and without the family, and without the having a availability of a job, will you still push your body? That is a human. Once they leave social media, a lot of YouTubers probably would not exercise. They would just lay on the couch and just eat all their life away like that. Never allowed to create a superior human being. He is holding that airplane. So while there may be many great humans out there that may have great 20-inch arms and bench press 100 pounds, 500 pounds, did 1,000 pounds, but problem is, if they were into addiction, if they ever lost their resource of finances, to food, to family, friends, and go through like decades of addiction, would they still be standing and pushing their body without any logical objective? He just plainly, just internal instruction is keep pushing his body no matter how dark his life is. So in this second picture, he is lifting this island. It's infected with kryptonite, which is weakens him. So besides the fact, even when he's drug induced, crack cocaine, even when he's going through financial burdening of sex addiction or whatever, for decades you're talking about, to over 20 years, 25 years, his body has become fat and become weak of motivation because his internal instruction, he has completed his internal instruction, but there was no compensation. And the only thing that he has is death, because he has no credits in bank. In his early years, he destroyed it. He borrowed a few thousand from the bank, never paid it, so that is destroyed. He has no family, friends. He has fulfilled the internal addiction of drugs, the woman, for 25 years. And for him to, and through his criminal activity, he's been deported into another country where he can't speak the language and all that. And then on top of that, he's going back to jail somehow unexpectedly, because he thought that his jail time and prison time were all over. Unfortunately not, because as long as you have an addiction and you're a criminal, that will linger you until to your death, unfortunately. So that's what he finds out. He is going back to prison, back and forth. So to what point will you still push your body and strive to become? So in here, he's waiting for death. He has fulfilled what he could. He did what he could. Financial, humanistic, and fame, and these things are really irrelevant. He doesn't really care about it. He has no family. He has no human contact. All he did in all his life is just fulfill the flesh condition addiction for 20, 30 years. That's all he did in life. And he is just happily to go back. But somehow, as he lays in comatose, he went through comatose a couple of times, 2, 3 times already. Now he finally hit 25 years. His body's fat. He's in a comatose state. He's ready to die. He don't care no more. But somehow, his body, as he lays in bed, watching old movies and documentaries of various kinds of people's lives and stories, as he enters into this dark tunnel of philosophical knowledge into the world of historical past to present, his body just cannot lay in bed anymore. Slowly, his body reacts. The ab muscles, he had all through his life, he has never worked his ab muscles. But suddenly, after almost 50 years, his abs starting to crave for certain reaction. Like he cannot lay still in bed. His body starts to, his upper body is just over and done. It's been abused and done for 30 years. His abs have never, it's like a virgin of muscle. He never worked it all through his life. Suddenly, after 30 years, as he's laying in bed for like a year, 2 years, back and forth in different institutions, his body just starts to react into building. It's just reacting. He can't lay. His body starts building the lower part of his body, ab muscles, and that's how he slowly loses the fat around his waist, slowly. But he doesn't really want to exercise. He doesn't really. He's old now. He's retired. There's no need for him to rejuvenate, resurrect himself. But somehow his body is so, through his natural building of the body, his body has been conditioned to recover and react in a way that it's illogical. So he, within his death, awaiting death, he's waiting death. He's done. He's done. His life. He done all he could. He fulfilled all the addiction he could in his mind, and that if he died today, fine. But his body just slowly starts doing ab muscles. Not the ones that makes you sweat. The ones that not from the head to the knee, but the leg to the chest. That whatever kind of exercise he does, he never does it when that exerts a lot of force, like one arm movements to doing crunches. Anything that consists of extra energy or consists of making more, make you sweat, he will do exercise slowly and progressively, and through day, whenever he wants to do it, never forced. So he will do the exercise whenever he wants to, and through that he resurrects himself into. And that's how he really becomes, because all through his life that he had just been lost and abused his body and abused himself. And somehow, after almost 50 years, he's an old age now. He's an old man. I mean, humans don't consider that old, but to him, he is old because he went through life so fast. But the thing about within his obese body and limited future prospects, after 30 years of addiction, his body suddenly resurrects through slow progressive movements of the abdominal muscle, which he never ever worked in his whole life. So as movie portrays him lifting that kryptonite and to kryptonite influenced island, how significant that is in real life when there are a lot of people out there who have had it and have fallen. And while death awaited them, but somehow they have resurrected themselves. Unfortunately for him, while humans may go through it once or twice, a few times, he had to go through it like hundreds, thousands of times. Up and down, up and down, up. A month's salary, it's all gone. You're homeless. Next month, obtain job, it's all gone again. Or the mental agony of it. That you can never, he lived this life of kamikaze because although he strived to fulfill this internal ambition, but Mother Nature always seems to pull the rug under him. So he never gets to